teenager on a bicycle, and our eyes locked. She hit the hood. She flew up in the air. She died at the scene, even though it was an accident. To me, it wasn't. To me, I just killed somebody. The worst one was I thought I sent somebody to hell. I was dying inside. I was screaming inside that I needed help. But then I went to church. The next thing I knew, I was in heaven. And I heard angels. They were celebrating that the daughter came back. And then he spoke.
Welcome to God's Voice Daily. I'm your host, Vladimir Proknevsky, and this is the channel where I share daily phone calls with people from around the world who've had real supernatural encounters with Jesus, angels, demons, and everything in between. Some of these calls go on to become full episodes on our main show called God's Voice Today, but here you will hear them raw and unfiltered, just the way they happened. So without any further ado, let's dive into today's featured call. Enjoy.
Hello, this is Vickie.
Hi, Vickie. This is Vladimir from God's Voice Today. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Living the dream, blessed by the best. Can't complain.
That's right.
How about yourself?
Good. Good. Very, very good. Yep. Blessed here too.
Good. Well, Vickie, is this my first time speaking with you?
Yes, it is.
Awesome. Well, Vickie, I'm curious to find out, how did you find the channel and how long ago?
Well, my experience was a little bit different. Like, I did not really have an ND, but so I didn't know anything about those kind of things. When I came to the Lord, it was a supernatural from the day one when I surrendered. It was supernatural. But it wasn't until about 5 years ago that I started just going on YouTube, and I just found these different YouTube channels that I'm like, oh my gosh, some of them were even speaking on the same thing I saw. I'm like, I never knew this, happened to anybody else. And so you were one of them that I started following. And then I have listened to so many that I have a spreadsheet now of all of them that the Lord wants me to contact. You were the first one I'm supposed to contact. And then there was a TV station that's supposed to be the first one to get the book. So the book's been sent off because it came out last week, and here you and I are talking. So just exactly what the Lord said to do is working.
Perfect. Well, Vickie, tell me more. I want to hear your testimony.
Sure. I grew up in being Methodist, and even my grandfather was a pastor. I will be honest, I thought that the book was true, but that it was for them. It was for the people of those days. I didn't know anything about the Holy Spirit's job. I accepted Jesus in my heart when I was 5th grade, and that was because I opened up the Bible and I read it. Nobody taught it to me. But I didn't know that from there I should be growing. My parents they're wonderful people. This is not a bashing of any of my family members. It's just that when you grow up in religion, you just go through the motions.
Right.
And so I was in a very bad accident when I was 16. I had just gotten my driver's license, and my dad asked me if I wanted to take my first out-of-town trip. And so it was going to be to Macomb, Illinois, because I'm from Illinois. I said, sure. So this was before seatbelts and car seats. So my baby sister was in the front seat taking a nap, and Dad was in the back. And just right before Macomb, there is a big hill, and a pickup truck was in front of me. And at the top of that hill, he swerved really sharp to the left, and my eyes went to him, and I had no idea what was in front of me. And I hit a teenager on a bicycle. And our eyes locked. She hit the hood. She flew up in the air. She died at the scene. I don't remember much after screaming and seeing her skidding as far as my car was skidding. I remember that. Next thing I know is I was in the back of a cop car. 16-year-old mind was just, it wasn't in a good spot. Mm. And even though my parents they were pillars of, and they still are. I mean, my mom's passed away, but pillars of our community. We never talked about it. It literally was as if it didn't happen. And so I got married. I mean, I tried turning to alcohol, but my dad, he was a high school teacher. So what did 3 high school teachers do? There's only 2 liquor stores in town, and they bought one of them. So I could not go to parties. He found out where I was at. It was just, I kept spiraling out of control because it wouldn't ever leave my mind. And I just wanted to numb it. I wanted it to go away. So 1 month to the day after high school graduation, I married, but then the partying started. And for 25 years, I have 3 wonderful daughters, Vladimir, and I have no idea how that worked. I have no idea how that worked because I had more men in my life than it was bad. And so 25 years after that, it was December 31st, 2005. I was just sick and tired of the lifestyle. I was just sick and tired of what was going on. And I went in my bedroom and I grabbed a Bible. I just started telling God I was sorry for everything I could think of. It lasted for a good long time because, boy, there was a lot I had done. And the next day was January 1, 2006. I had not attended any church in the town because I got to the town I live in now because of a man. I never went to a church. About the only time I went to church as an adult up to that point was if it was like at my parents' for Christmas or Easter, stuff like that. And that was out of respect for them. But I opened up the phone book, pointed to a church, went to it. I just knew I needed to get into that sanctuary. I walked in, was greeted by 2 very nice people. If you know anything about Methodists, we aren't huggers. We didn't grow up, you might shake hands, but we didn't grow up hugging. And the lady that greeted me was my neighbor that for 8 years I lived there and never said hi to her one time. That's how much I was into myself. And then the other one was the now co-director of our ministry. And he says, I don't shake hands, I give hugs. I thought he was a creep. I just needed to get to that sanctuary. And so I went in there, and it was a very tiny, small, beautiful little church. And I remember a guy strapping on a guitar. I didn't know a soul in there except for the neighbor that I realized who she was. And then I saw a guy get up to greet people. And then that's the last thing I remember. The next thing I knew, I was in heaven, or heaven came down to me. I'm not sure which, but I knew nothing about the prodigal son, so I did not know that the celebration that was going on was for me. And I heard angels. I never did see them. I was in an all white. It was so white, it never hurt my eyes, but I even remember looking to see if I could see corners, because the white was it was everywhere. It was like white, just a bright, beautiful white. And I remember hearing the angels that seemed to be to my left, beautiful music, and I grew up in music. There were notes that I didn't even know. I couldn't figure out how this was happening and what was happening, but I just knew that they were celebrating that the daughter came back. And then he spoke. And then when I realized that all the white was God at that moment, that I was he was enveloping me. And he said, the last few times I partied hard. I was even raped when I was in Vegas, and never told anybody. I never told anybody. And God said, I saw you dancing on the bar. And he was actually right. I was on the bar, not sitting at a bar. He said, I saw you dancing on the stage. I saw what happened in Vegas. He said, but now you'll dance for me. And I grew up in that. And I knew without a shadow of a doubt that that was my first assignment, and that this was going to carry on. That this relationship we had was a father so excited that his daughter came back and now is going to be sold out for Christ. I mean, I'm sold out, and you know, I lost a lot in the process. I think anybody that would truly say they're sold out for Christ would have to admit they've lost friends, family. But then what I've gained is just so much more. Been blessed beyond. I mean, actually, Richard and I are homeless, but we chose that because one of the assignments God gave us, we had a homeless shelter, and we lived there. And Richard actually the shelter wasn't owned by us. We just leased the grounds, and they sold the grounds, so we had to move. And so Richard and I and one of the guys from the homeless shelter, he's a sweet, sweet man, we all rented a house in town. But then Richard got sick. And after he had the cancer removed, he was still real sick. He couldn't work full time. And I did. I've always worked. And I knew we couldn't afford the ministry we were running and the home we were living in. And the Lord said he would be okay with either choice. I was still going to heaven if I said we're going to close Enduring Freedom Ministries. But Richard and I prayed about it, and we knew that at that moment we became homeless. And that is when this mission blew up. I mean, we're in a little farming community of 250 people, little farming community outside Effingham, Illinois. And we have a free grocery store, clothing, hair salon, laundromat, and a soup kitchen, all in an old grade school. And we help about 1,700 people a month. Wow. And it's all because of what God's doing. And so I mean, that's the testimony of me coming back to the Lord and his work. And then the book is just all about the different missions he's had us on, but it's also been about the miracles that have taken place, some of the spiritual warfare that's taken place. It's, yeah.
Wow. What a testimony.
Yeah. Isn't that cool?
Man,
pretty cool.
You definitely had me on the edge of my seat when you told about the accident. I can only imagine.
Yeah.
What you're 16, 17, 16 years old, right?
16. Yep, 16.
What do you have
Just had my license for a few months.
Your whole life changed that moment, right? Have you reconnected with the family of that person that died?
Yes, actually, because for 25 years, even as an adult, I've gotten counseling recently because I didn't know that when something terrible like that happens in a child's life or a teenager's life, your brain doesn't fully develop till 25. So basically, my life was stuck. Like, I just wanted to numb the pain. And so constantly, Vladimir, I would think that family hates me. The cops are going to come after me any minute. That even though it was an accident, everybody knows. To me, it wasn't. To me, I just killed somebody. And then the worst one was I thought I sent somebody to hell, because if she was running away from home, surely she didn't know Jesus. She wouldn't run away from home. And so that one was the one that got me. And 25 years later, when I surrendered, that was one of the first things I did. Is I went to the community, the town that the accident happened, to find her grave. And I tried finding her family. I could not. I tried. I mean, I'm sure there's family around, but I couldn't find them. But I truly knew that. That's when I realized that it wasn't my fault, that it was an accident, and it was a terrible accident. There was nothing I could have done. And that is what God showed me.
What do you know about it was a girl, right? Not a guy? Yes.
It was a teenage girl. She was with her boyfriend. I didn't even know until, when I say that they didn't talk about an accident. I'm saying by the time I got back home, Bridgetown, Illinois, I don't remember anybody saying anything. And I was dying inside. I was screaming inside that I needed help. But she was actually running away from home, and her boyfriend was on the bike on the side of the road. And I never knew that until people started, the police. I heard him talking to my dad in the cop car. I never even knew there was another guy there, another person there. And he didn't get injured. He was on the side of the road. She was right in the middle of the road, right where the lines were. And the pickup truck hit the front of her tire. That's when he swerved real fast, and she spun around. But before her body hit my hood, we locked eyes. And that was another thing that got me, is I knew I was the last person she saw.
And I can imagine you. So you remember her clearly, right? That look on her face.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Her hair, what color hair she had. Oh yeah.
She was just that terrified look, right? And I'm sure it haunted you.
It was just, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And how old was she? Do you know anything about her?
15. She was 15. Yeah. Gosh. And the only thing that I even found out was that I guess maybe they wanted to do something, and the parents said no. Typical teenage stuff, and so they took off on their bikes. And I mean, I don't even know what it'd be like to have the cops go to your parents' house and have to give them that news, So, but that was another thing is even though that family needed help for the tragedy, I needed help. But I can remember, and I put this part in the book. I can remember what teenager can say they've been in the back of a cop car? I only saw it in movies. And I heard the policeman say to Dad, "Mr. Kite, I think your daughter needs to go to the hospital." And I can remember looking down, going, I don't hurt anywhere. I don't have any blood. Why do I have to go to the hospital? And my dad said, "Oh no, we'll be all right. We'll be all right." And then he said it 2 more times. "Mr. Kite, I really think your daughter needs to go to the hospital." I mean, he knew what needed to be done.
Well, that older generation, they dealt with things a little different.
Definitely. Because that 25 years later, when I told you I surrendered and I wanted to go find her grave, I called my parents because they were the halfway point to get to Macomb. And Mom goes, "Hey, swing by the house." And I was planning on it anyway, but I did before I went there, and they handed me one of those large envelopes, manila envelopes. And it was full of cards and letters from people. And I never got them. I never knew people cared. They just felt it best just to hang on to it until they thought I was ready.
That could have been healing for you.
Exactly. Yep.
Wow.
But
wow.
I mean, it's like you said, it's a generation where
they just numbed everything, right? Kind of like almost, sweep it under the rug, big elephant in the room no one talks about. Well, that's just I definitely can relate to that. I grew up, just the older generation in general. It just seems like they just numb things.
Yeah.
More. And the younger generation is the opposite. They just want to talk it out. It's a different, I want to get on social media and talk about all my problems, which, it's the other extreme, probably oversharing.
Right.
But I'm interested in the part where you talked about going to the town and looking for her grave. Did you find her grave?
Yes, I did. Yes.
What was that?
I did.
What was that experience like?
It was, I don't want this to come out wrong, but I knew I was paying my respects. But the thing that made me so sad was it was literally just a small, tiny, flat headstone, no flowers, it hadn't been taken care of except for maybe the people that tend to the whole graveside thing, As
if the family moved on, right?
Right. Wow. I don't think anybody comes to this grave. But I also knew her soul wasn't there, and that I was there to say, I've come full circle here, but I knew that my prayer, I don't know what your belief is, but my belief is at the age of accountability, you have a choice, if you hear about Christ. So did she hear about Christ? I don't know. I think that if she hadn't, because I also found out that maybe she wasn't from the best, she didn't have the best upbringing, but perhaps she never did hear about Jesus. And God didn't tell me whenever I got to go to heaven. He didn't say anything about that. But I knew that I was paying my respects, and I knew that
I think it's mainly
healed.
for you, right? You needed that chapter to close.
Yeah, it was for me. Yeah. Yep.
I want to move on to your God's encounter, but before that, I'm curious. What was her name? Do you remember the name of the of the person who was killed?
Sally. It was Sally.
Man.
Yep.
Well, let's talk about your God experience.
Okay.
Did you guys speak like telepathically? Was it like thought to thought, spirit to spirit? What was that like?
Well, I didn't ever see him. I just knew that everything around me and through me, every detail was him. But I can say it was almost like an audible voice. So like I didn't know, since I didn't see him, it wasn't really, I actually heard the words. And really, I didn't say a whole lot. It was a father so excited that his daughter's home, and now is saying, "Okay, I've seen what you've been doing, but now you're going to do this." And I am telling you, Vladimir, every assignment he's ever given me has come to pass just like he said it would. As long as I stayed in the Word and fellowshipped and worshiped him and prayed and fasted when needed and just different things, it came to pass. And really, that's why God, I think, gave us this book, because there's no way two misfits for Christ. Because Richard was a drunk. He'll tell you, this is something he gives me permission to say. And here I was, just screwed up from head to toe. And he has used two people all the way to Israel to do things. And it's like, wow, I don't even know how that's possible except for him. So I think it was more of, I actually heard the words. I actually heard him speaking. I can also tell you that, it was the next thing I remember after he got done speaking is people were coming up and patting me on the shoulder saying, "Thank you so much for coming to church today," or worship, or whatever they were saying. And I'm like, I thought I just got here. Like I had no idea church service was over.
Wow.
Yeah, and they said that I literally sat there and cried. People that came up to me, and I don't remember any of that. And I wouldn't tell anybody what had happened because I needed to process this. I needed to, when you
that's
grow
a lot
up
to process. Yeah,
it's like, wait a minute. I looked at the time. I'm like, I was gone a whole hour, and they went on. I don't even know what they did, and yeah. So that part was crazy whenever they were thanking me for coming, and I'm like, I thought I just sat down. And
Vickie, what was it like being in his presence?
Oh my gosh. It wasn't until just recently, I don't remember where I was at. I hope I journaled it, but I had this, you know how you stand in front of a really loud speaker and you get this like vibration?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. It was like that. In fact, I think that's what it was. Because we have a big sound system here. And if I were to stand in front of a very loud speaker and the vibration, that is what I felt. I felt this vibration of him speaking like
Intense,
right to my soul. Yeah, like right there. And yeah.
Have you had any supernatural encounters since then? Like an experience like that? Tell me more.
No. Yeah. Yeah, I've several things, but
if you have to pick one, that like, man, Vlad really needs to hear this one, what would it be? I'm putting you on the spot here.
I know. No, that's okay. I think it's the day God sent an angel to save my life.
Tell me more.
Okay. I was a FedEx contractor for many years. Mm-hmm. And during the summer, I had a young man be my jumper. And we went out to this little farm town, and went out in the country and pulled up to this house. He ran a package up, and I was in the back of the truck getting the next package ready. He hollered and jumped in the truck and grabbed the back of his leg. He said, "That dog just bit me." And sure enough, it broke the skin. It got him. And so my next step is to call the sheriff. They had to quarantine the dog, make sure they had the shots. We got the jumper. He now's my son-in-law, but anyway, we got him some help, and all was well. Okay. But another package came down the belt a few months later, and I called the family. I said, "Listen, I'm not delivering to your house unless you come to the truck or that dog is tied up or in the house." And they go, "We've already chained him up in the backyard because they had to work. So everything will be fine." I said, "Okay." I pulled in. I could see the dog. He was chained up. Now this dog was big and not a nice dog. And so I had a little tiny box. I got out of my FedEx truck and was about halfway between the truck and their door that I was going to set the package on, and the chain broke.
Whoa.
And that dog, I knew without a shadow of a doubt, this is not good. There was no way I could make it back to the truck and shut the door in time. Nobody was home. And I knew, because the way he was running, his hair on the back of his teeth, I could just see it all. And I knew all I have is this little tiny box. And so right when I bent down, I put the box, because the dog went to lunge, so he went down. And it's all like, that's another thing with the accident. The same thing happened here. Everything goes in slow motion. I can remember details, but there's no way if you put it all together that a person could see all of that. But I saw the hair, the teeth. I bent down to put the box in front of my face, and I screamed, "Oh God." I just knew, this is it. I'm fixing to meet you. I'm coming home. And right when he should have lunged, I heard a vehicle pull in. And then I heard the words, "It's okay, take the package up." Well, I was trembling, I was shaking, and I realized he didn't jump on me. I'm like, how is that possible? He went to lunge. And I heard the words again. He said, "It's okay, take the package to the door." And I looked down, Vladimir, and that dog was in a heeled position, facing a quarter, like he wasn't facing me. He was facing, it would be his left. He wasn't even looking at me. He was sitting and looking the other way. And I looked to my left, and there was a UPS driver standing there in front of a UPS truck. And I'll tell you why it's an angel. I still couldn't move. My knees, I was trembling. I was crying. I couldn't believe I was alive. And he said for the third time, "It's okay, take the package up." And so I slid. Right. I would look at the guy one time, I'd look at the dog, and that dog, it was like he was a statue. He never moved. And I thought, what is going on? And I put the package down. Then I realized, oh my gosh, I have to cross in front of that dog to get back to my truck. So then the angel said again, "It's okay, go ahead and get in your truck." Dog never moved his head, never budged. And he had to repeat it again because I was moving slow, man. I was like, "Oh, I can't believe this is happening." And so I got in my truck, and he said, go ahead and back out. And I did. And so his truck was next to mine. So I backed out. And then when I got my truck turned to go down the road, I realized I didn't even tell him thank you. I didn't even say anything. And I'm not kidding. I opened the door and there was no UPS truck. And I can also tell you, I know why it was an angel is because I'd been in that area for 8 years. And I knew every UPS, every FedEx, well, because we came out of the same terminal, every DHL and every post office driver. And I knew their subs. This guy I had never seen before. And then, and we're out in the country. There weren't any fields up. There was no crops up. There was not a lot of trees. I could look everywhere, north, south, east, west. There was no truck. There was no truck.
It's like, what can Angel do for you? UPS.
Yeah, that's right.
That's
they
amazing.
Can send a UPS driver. Yeah, that's just one. There's been many, many times he has saved.
Well, Vickie, I would love for you to tell me more about the book and how can people find the book?
Sure, Amazon. We have it on our website too, but
what's the name of the book?
Amazon.
What's the title?
Misfits for Jesus.
And okay, all right. Well,
yeah,
Vickie,
and it's true accounts of people. So it's not just about Richard and I. This is about what God's doing through, just a bunch of people that love Jesus. You know what I mean? We just
love it. Perfect.
Love it.
Well, Vickie, thank you so much for your time.
Yes, thank you for calling. I appreciate it.
Thanks for watching. If this call caught your attention, wait until you see what's coming up next. It should be on the screen right now. Go ahead and click on that video, and I'll see you there.